Question. Explain the difference between device enrollment and device registration in Entra ID Intune. Answer. Registration is for BYOD, personal devices, to access resources with a work account. Enrollment gives the organization full MDM control over the device, allowing for wipe capabilities and deep configuration. Question. How would you implement a zero-touch deployment strategy for new Windows laptops? Answer. Use Windows Autopilot. This involves registering hardware IDs with the Autopilot service, configuring a deployment profile, and having the user sign in with their corporate credentials upon unboxing. Question. What is the difference between a configuration profile and a compliance policy? Answer. Configuration profiles push settings, Wi-Fi, VPN, BitLocker. Compliance policies check if the device meets security standards, e.g., is OS version greater than X? If not, conditional access can block resource access. Question. How do you handle Win32 app deployment in Intune? Answer. Use the Intune Win32 prep tool to wrap the .x or .msi into an Intune Win file, then define install, uninstall commands and detection rules, file, registry, or script-based. Question. What are Intune remediation scripts, formerly proactive remediations? Answer. They are pairs of PowerShell scripts, detection and remediation, that run on a schedule to detect and fix common issues, e.g., restarting a service or clearing a specific cache, before the user notices. Question. How does delivery optimization work for Intune managed devices? Answer. It uses a peer-to-peer distribution method where devices on the same network share downloaded update bits, reducing bandwidth strain on the internet circuit. Question. If an autopilot deployment fails at the account setup phase, where do you start troubleshooting? Answer. Check the Intune management extension logs, see program data, Microsoft, Intune management extension, logs, and use the Shift plus F10 command to open the CMD event viewer during OOBE. Question. Explain the use of Configuration Designer versus Intune for device provisioning. Answer. Configuration Designer creates PPKG files for offline or bulk provisioning via USB, while Intune is a cloud-based solution for ongoing over-the-air management. Question. How do you manage iOS or Android devices differently than Windows in a unified environment? Answer. Use Apple Business Manager, ABM, or Android Enterprise for enrollment, but keep compliance policies consistent across platforms to maintain a unified security posture. Question. What is RBAC in the context of Intune, and how would you set it up for a service desk team? Answer. Role-based access control. I would create a custom role with read and remote task, wipe, restart, permissions, but restrict policy creation to prevent unauthorized configuration changes. 2. Entra ID, Azure AD, and Identity question. Describe a conditional access policy that supports a zero-trust model. Answer. A policy that requires a compliant device and multi-factor authentication, MFA, for any user attempting to access all cloud apps from outside the corporate network. Question. What is the benefit of Entra ID join over hybrid Entra ID join for new deployments? Answer. Entra ID join is cloud native, removing the dependency on on-premises domain controllers and line of sight for password changes or GPO processing. Question. How do you manage identity lifecycle for a user from hire to fire? Answer. Use SCIM provisioning from an HRIS, like Workday, to Entra ID, dynamic groups for license, app assignment, and an automated offboarding script to revoke sessions and disable the account. Question. What are access reviews in Entra ID? Answer. A feature of identity governance that forces group owners to periodically certify that users still need access to specific sensitive resources or groups. Question. How do dynamic groups improve productivity management? Answer. They automate membership based on user attributes, e.g., department EQ, sales, ensuring users automatically receive the apps and policies relevant to their role. Question. Explain the concept of seamless single sign-on (SSO). Answer. It automatically signs users in when they are on their corporate devices connected to your corporate network, usually by integrating with Kerberos. Question. What is Privileged Identity Management (PIM)? Answer. It provides, just-in-time, JIT, administrative access, ensuring users only have elevated permissions for a limited time and with a documented justification. Question. How does Certificate-Based Authentication (CBA) fit into modern endpoint management? Answer. It allows users to authenticate using a hardware-based or software-based certificate, satisfying MFA requirements without needing a phone or SMS code. Question. What is an Entra ID app registration versus an enterprise application? Answer. App registration is for developers creating an app. Enterprise application is the local, service principal, representation used for managing permissions and SSO for that app within your tenant. Question. How do you handle guest access in a secure way? Answer. Through Entra B2B collaboration, enforced by conditional access policies that require guests to use MFA or come from a known, managed tenant. 3. Microsoft 365 and Productivity, SharePoint, Teams, Exchange. Question. What is your approach to SharePoint governance? Answer. Define a site provisioning process, enforce naming conventions, set external sharing restrictions by default, and implement retention labels for sensitive data. Question. How would you troubleshoot a user's OneDrive sync error affecting an entire department? Answer. Check the Microsoft 365 Service Health dashboard first, then investigate if a recent GPO or Intune policy changed, files on demand, or authentication settings. Question. Explain sensitivity labels and how they protect documents. Answer. They apply encryption and watermarks to files. Even if a file is downloaded or emailed, only authorized users defined in the label can open it. Question. How do you manage Exchange Online Protection (EOP) and Defender for Office 365? Answer. Configure anti-phishing, anti-spam, and safe links, safe attachments policies to intercept malicious content before it reaches the inbox. Question. Describe the process of tenant-to-tenant migration for M365. Answer. Usually involves third-party tools, like Quest or BitTitan, to migrate mailboxes and OneDrive data, followed by migrating the domain and reconfiguring Intune, Entra ID. Question. How do you prevent data leakage in Microsoft Teams? Answer. Use data loss prevention (DLP) policies to block messages or files containing sensitive info, SSNs, credit cards, and disable anonymous join for meetings. Question. What is the difference between M365 apps for enterprise and regular Office? Answer. Apps for enterprise is user-based licensing, not device-based, stays updated via the monthly enterprise channel, and includes advanced features like Power Pivot and sensitivity labels. Question. How do you manage shared mailboxes and their life cycle? Answer. Create them via Exchange Admin Center (EAC) without an active license, manage permissions via security groups, and use PowerShell to audit who is accessing them. Question. What are retention policies versus retention labels? Answer. Policies apply to the entire location, e.g., all of SharePoint, while labels are applied to individual files or folders, often by the user or via auto-labeling. Question. How do you optimize M365 network traffic for remote users? Answer. Implement split tunneling for VPNs so that M365 traffic goes directly to the Microsoft front door rather than backhauling through the corporate data center. 4. Automation and scripting, PowerShell, Graph API. Question. How do you use the Microsoft Graph API to pull a report of all non-compliant devices? Answer. I would use an invoke REST method get request to the https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/device management/manage devices endpoint and filter by compliance state. Question. Write a pseudo script logic to bulk assign a license to users in a specific department. Answer. Get MG user filter, department EQ, finance, set MG user license, add licenses $license ID. Question. Why use JSON when working with Graph API or Intune policies? Answer. JSON is the standard format for Graph API payloads. It allows for structured data exchange when creating or updating Intune configuration profiles programmatically. Question. How do you secure API keys or secrets used in automation scripts? Answer. Store them in Azure Key Vault or use managed identities if running from an Azure resource, rather than hard-coding them in PS1 files. Question. What is the benefit of the Microsoft Graph PowerShell SDK over the old Azure AD module? Answer. The SDK is cross-platform, PowerShell core, supports all Graph endpoints, and is the actively maintained tool for modern M365 management. 5. Security, patching and vulnerability management question. How do you manage third-party patching for applications like Chrome or Zoom in an Intune environment? Answer. Either through manual Win32 app updates, supersedence, or by integrating a third-party tool like Patch My PC or Scapman into Intune. Question. What are update rings for Windows 10 11s? Answer. Intune settings that define when pilot, broad, and critical groups receive OS updates, allowing for testing before global rollout. Question. Explain the zero trust principle of assume breach. Answer. It means designing systems so that even if one device is compromised, the attacker cannot move laterally because every access request is verified and segment limited. Question. How do you monitor BitLocker compliance across 1000 laptops? Answer. Use an Intune compliance policy requiring encryption and monitor the encryption report in the Intune portal or via a custom log analytics dashboard. Question. What is endpoint detection and response (EDR) and how does it integrate with Intune? Answer. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. It integrates via service-to-service connection. Intune can automatically deploy the onboarding package to all managed devices. Getty Images. 6. Operations, strategy and vendor management question. How do you define a KPI for end user experience? Answer. Metrics like average boot time, app crash frequency, and service desk tickets per 100 users. Question. How do you manage a hardware life cycle for 5000 devices? Answer. Establish a 3-4 year refresh cycle, maintain an asset management database, AMDB, linked to Intune, and work with vendors, Dell, HP, Lenovo, for buyback, recycling. Question. What is a runbook, and why is it important for the service desk? Answer. A step-by-step technical guide for a specific process, e.g., manual device wipe. It ensures consistency and reduces escalation volume for the engineering team. Question. How do you approach cost optimization in M365 licensing? Answer. Use PowerShell to identify unlicensed users or users with E5 inches who only use E3 features and prune inactive accounts. Question. Describe a time you had to manage a vendor relationship during a major outage. Answer. Behavioral, focus on clear communication, opening a severity A ticket, and holding regular syncs until the root cause analysis (RCA) is delivered. Question. How do you ensure regulatory compliance, like GDPR or HIPAA, on endpoints? Answer. Through DLP, encryption, forced screen locks, and audit logging shipped to a SIEM like Microsoft Sentinel. Question. What is SLA versus SLO in the context of IT systems? Answer. SLA is the legal, contractual agreement for uptime, e.g., 99.9%, SLO is the internal goal your team aims for, e.g., 99.95%. Question: how do you handle conflict resolution between security requirements and user productivity? Answer: pilot the security change with a small group, gather feedback, and find a middle ground, e.g., using Windows Hello for Business to make MFA less intrusive. Question: what are administrative templates in Intune? Answer: they are the cloud equivalent of GPOs, providing a key to configure thousands of Windows settings based on ADMX files. Question: if the graph API is down, how do you manage your environment? Answer: revert to the web portals.